as everybody should. Whose planet is this anyhow? So be empowered with the knowledge. Go to the Bible and read the truths out there and see if they're not relevant today. You'll find that they are relevant today, very much relevant. And this whole thing has to wind up. We got to sum it up here. That's the closing of the age. That's what's happening now. And yes, I'm stressed out. I'm not sitting here. Do you hear me sitting here all calm and peaceful and just chatting about it? No. But it's by the grace of God that, the righteous are going to get through this thing. Not the self-righteous. I'm talking about the righteous. Those that hunger and thirst for righteousness to be the rule of the day on earth. Because that day will come, one way or another, sooner or later, the good guy is going to win, okay? So let's all be very clear about that fact. So it's not a lot of fun to be hated without a cause unduly. Another thing that happened to Alex Jones, this one guy, call him a name or something, F you, was a common thing to say to him. And he had a thermos of coffee. And he came up to Alex and started chest bumping him, poor guy. And he had this thermos of coffee, and he just opened it up and he threw it in Alex's face, okay, on the side of his head. And Alex said it was hot, but because it was cool outside, it almost felt good. I mean, see, this is very biblical. To take something like that, it's like the teaching of Jesus. When men say these terrible things about you, it's actually a good thing. And that's a tough pill to swallow, okay? Because the righteous among us, the upright, decent people that want justice and good things on earth for all humanity, not some of humanity, okay? All the good things, the peace, the joy, the contentment, safety, security, prosperity. Okay, they don't revel. They're not the type that will say, I told you so. They're not the I told you so kind of types. They're very serious, somber, sober-minded people that say, this is serious stuff, man. This is life and death. They're murdering people. Do you understand? They start unjust wars whereby we got 20 vets a day taking their own lives. I mean, how is that in anybody's book okay to any degree? It isn't. It isn't. But this is the kind of stuff we're talking about here. They're dying on the streets of America, purportedly wealthiest nation in the world. Oh, yeah, we got all the money in the world, right, to ship in all the refugees from these wars they started on purpose. You understand? As a last-ditch effort to prop up a failed economy by putting more demand on markets. Do you understand? It definitely, who can deny, puts a demand on things like housing, particularly. This is what they're concerned about because this is how they're propping up the economy. It's all about this legitimization of this illegitimate debt that was inflicted upon the American people in 2008. It goes back to that. We didn't have a market correction, so they keep trying to prop it up. And if people can't afford it, the welfare system's taxed out, the Section 8. You understand? $50 billion a year poured into this program to keep people from being homeless. Okay? And we've seen nothing but homelessness increase. And rents going up, so they're exacerbating the problem. Nobody can deny it. I mean, I'm talking statistics and facts. I'm talking mathematics, logic, reason. Okay, fiscal prudency, fiscal conservatism. Okay, I mean, let's get honest. Let's get real. People are dying, okay, all around us. This burden, this cost of living is always a bad thing. Okay, look at it this way. The fundamentals of economics are really quite simple. For one example is that you take a cost of living, okay? A high cost of living equals a low standard of living. Conversely, a low cost of living equals a high standard of living, okay? It has to do with the worth of your currency. It has to do with stability. It has to do with progress, okay? If you see social, political, economic progress, it's not political in terms of Democrats, Republicans, okay? That's not in this discussion about political. I just mean it has to do with money, how the wealth of the nation is spent. If you see progress socially, politically, and economically. So socially, we're talking about crime. We're talking about satisfaction and contentment of the public, the safety and the security, the freedom of the public. Okay, then we're talking about progress. So you want to see more of that. You want more good for the population. That's progress. And that what happens is the currency is increasing in worth. Why does it do that? Because it's according to the law of supply and demand. As we find easier and easier ways to manufacture and produce and provide and supply the things we need, not only the things that we absolutely need, like food and housing and potable water and energy, okay, but the things we want, the trinkets, knickknacks, luxury items, on and on and on, to whatever our heart desires nowadays, right? We can have whatever we want. But it's a rising tide of prosperity across the board is what happens as your currency increases in worth. That's the progress. That is the evidence. That's the litmus test. That's the metric. That's the gauge. That's the graph. Okay, what you want to look at, what you want to see is your standard of living going up through currency worth going up. Okay, it happens simultaneously. Currency worth goes up, standard of living goes up. Sense of freedom, sense of security goes up. So it's really, that's just one example of fundamental economics. And they're really, I mean, I could teach an economics class in an afternoon, basically, because it's that simple. But you've got to be empowered with the truth. I mean, you gotta know what's written. You got to say, well, this is what the wisest men I think that I trust in history say. The Bible's wisdom. King Solomon is wisdom. Even the secular world has to admit. I mean, it's commonly known King Solomon was called the wisest man in the world, just because of the baby thing. The two women arguing about whose baby it was. King Solomon, I know how to get to the bottom of this. Let's cut the damn thing in half, and we'll, you know, he knew it was through his wisdom. So he knew it was a trick. He was using psychology on these women, right? So he knew that the real mother would never allow it. Say, I'd rather she had the baby, okay, because I love that baby. But it's like that, you know, and but Jesus clearly stated, look, one far greater than Solomon is here, okay? His wisdom exceeded it all. And if there's something you don't understand about his teaching, just go to God yourself. Jesus said that. You go directly to the Father. Each one of us can walk boldly and should walk boldly before the throne of God and demand to have understanding, demand to be out of darkness, out of ignorance, out of confusion, this thick veil of confusion and ignorance that's been just hoisted down over our eyes that we can't see. We're all screwed up in the head. How can't we be? Our paradigm is nothing like what it should be. If we had any semblance of reality, you know how many hours a week most people would be working? 2, 3, 4, 5, if they're lucky, maybe. Do you understand? You'd need no traffic jams. Do you understand how that would work? No traffic jams. Nobody's punching a clock. Do you understand how our society could work? How vastly, profoundly, dramatically different society would be if we were born into a viable reality here, a reality that God wanted to give us. That's what I'm trying to get across to people, that there is logic with God. He does make sense, that nothing bad is his fault. And when he prevails in the land, when God gets his will, when Jesus is ruling over the affairs of men completely, because he's already ruling over the affairs of the devout believers in him and his teachings that say, come, Lord Jesus, may God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. You know, and yes, I want that to come now. I'm anxiously waiting for that. I'm really excited to see that, because I hate my life in this world with all the evil flourishing in the land and the darkness and all this crap, all the problems, the death and destruction, the misery. I'm tired of it. So you're a Laodicean. You're a humanitarian. You're on the right side of history if you believe that. Okay, but remember, you're fighting against those people that want to keep the status quo. They want to keep this trajectory. The establishmentarians that are devoted to Satan, really, basically at the end of the day, witting or not. They're devoted to the God of this world, to the money masters of misery. That's their God. And they don't care how many people got to die. They want to get their way. So they would love to have the military in their pocket at this point in history, but they don't. I mean, if civil war broke out in America, okay, while the vast majority of military and law enforcement like Trump, what do you think is going to happen in short order? Okay, it's not going to happen. Thank God it's not going to happen. So the mainstream media puppets are not going to get what their masters want. And a lot of them are glad, even though they can't tell you on television because they're being paid by these people. So, you know, they're having to use a degree of shrewdness here, I think. Okay, so I don't condemn the national media people. I'm just saying, you know, at some point there might be a cutoff. and you might have to jump ships. I'm not going along with this lie. They just want to induce a new civil war in America, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go along with it. They're telling me to spew out this and that and the next thing, and just kindle this hatred until it's a blazing inferno, and we've got blood in the streets everywhere in the country. Okay, that's what they would like. Yes, because they get more control. They make money off that. You understand? And they don't care about human lives, so they don't care about the collateral damage, so to speak. But, it's getting serious, because the mainstream media, man, you got to step up to the plate in your conscience and say, look, I'd rather be homeless living under the bridge than tell your lies anymore. I've got integrity and honor, self-respect. Okay, I'm going to answer to God someday. I'm going to stand before my owner one-on-one, and we should all believe that. We should all. It's the only safe way to believe in life, to think. Okay, that's the only right philosophy to prescribe to that. We will give account for every careless word, every careless thought that we held on to. Okay, every careless action. We're going to answer for everything in who we are. And remember, if there's one thing God isn't, that's stupid. So he's not going to buy a lot of psychobabble rattling around in my head, your head, or anybody else's head out there. Okay, let's just be honest. So it's not about being really smart and intellectual. This is about just being really honest with ourselves and saying, am I really being the man or woman that God has called me to be? All the way, without compromise. And if I am compromising, to what avail? What profit is that to me or anybody else? No. I want to be all in. I want to get all the rewards possible. And what are the treasures that we're talking about here that Jesus said, store your treasures in heaven where neither rust nor moth destroy and thieves don't break in and steal. Okay? It is human beings. It is the soul of men. It's friends. First came just to vindicate his name, we can all start. And refuse to compromise the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. It's the enemy of our soul that's out there trying to convince us that you're useless. You're just another warm body. Nobody needs you. Do the earth a favor and just go die somewhere under a bridge. That's the message I get from the secular world. They're haters. And I'm just so glad that God is making me the kind of person that is very hard to hate, because, I'm the kind of guy that says, look, what Jesus said, love your enemy, okay? We cannot assume that somebody is deliberately evil and a deceiver. We cannot believe that. As believers, what I prescribe to is saying, look, we don't know. We don't have the wherewithal. We don't have that kind of wisdom that God has to condemn somebody, to judge them to that degree. So what are we told to do? Hold an olive branch out, an olive leaf out by loving your fellow man, and that includes your enemy, because what credit is it to love those who already love you? Clearly it was said because he wanted us to love those who hate us, that hate God, witting and not. They might not even know it. They might say, I go to church every Sunday. Don't tell me I hate God. Don't tell me that my God is Satan. They're oblivious. They don't tell me my God is money. I don't love money. I just use it as a tool. It's just to facilitate exchange, Don't you tell me this stuff, but really all the while they're not God's friend. They're the type Jesus said, look, when I return, many are those that are going to call on my name and say, Lord, but I did this and that in your name, and this miracle I did, and I believed in you all along, but their hearts were far from him. These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They don't know me. They don't really know. They really never stepped into the shoes of the least of men. And Jesus said, I am the least of men. And whatsoever you do or fail to do for the least of men, you do or fail to do for me. Do you understand? So God isn't stupid. He's not going to buy a lot of Laodicean crap. You're so well healed. When I say get comfortable with things, well, yeah, we have to get comfortable with things to a degree, a modicum of being able to cope and survive in a mad world that's been inflicted on us. But you don't want to get too comfortable where you love your life in this world too much, because then you're like the ones that you've got nothing to look forward to. Okay, it's those that have had it tough, that have really gotten in the fray, jumped in the pool of humanity, and shared each other's slings and arrows and all the unnecessary, artificial, invented, manufactured suffering, okay, that's been inflicted on people, and sharing in that, getting your fair share of abuse, like that Rolling Stones song, right? I went down to the demonstration to get my fair share of abuse. Yes, there is a longing in all of us, God-fearing, God-revering, God-loving people that want the best for humanity, get our fair share. So you jump in the pool of humanity. If you're real, then you'll be like the Philadelphians. You're on the side of humanity. You're God's friend. So you're not in part way. You're in all the way. You don't want to be lukewarm. And then he pukes you out of his mouth like it talks about in the book of Revelations. We want to be all in. We want to be